The fall and rise of Charlton Athletic. Look, if you want a textbook definition of a corporate turnaround story wrapped in a football club, this is it. Let's dive right into this explainer on how a model of top-flight stability somehow devolved into an era of absolute boardroom chaos, and more importantly, how they are methodically fighting their way back.
To really grasp this dramatic turnaround, we've got to ask a pretty basic question. How does a stable Premier League club survive a hostile, totally public boardroom civil war? I mean, how does an organization lose its grip so completely that it just spirals into chaos?
19 managers in 19 seasons. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. That staggering statistic right there tells you everything you need to know about the sheer scale of the club's dysfunction over the last 2 decades. But you know what makes that number completely mind-boggling? It's the fact that this whole story actually starts in an era of absolute, undeniable calm.
Which brings us to Section 1, the Premier League peak. We're rewinding back to the era between 1998 and 2006.
Back then, Alan Curbishley's Charlton was literally the definition of quiet consistency. Under Curbishley, the club were, quite frankly, mid-table masters. We're talking 15 years in charge, 720 games managed. He built a team that actively avoided crisis and just calmly cruised in the Premier League. In the 2003-04 season, they grabbed a remarkable 7th-place finish. They were even flirting with Champions League qualification at one point. And their lowest finish over 5 consecutive top-flight seasons, just 14th. Honestly, sometimes steady really is special.
But then we hit Section 2, Descent into Ownership Chaos. Because when Curbishley finally stepped down in 2006 to seek new challenges, that hard-earned stability was shattered almost immediately.
The contrast here is just incredibly stark. You have this rock-solid foundation of exactly 2 managers over 24 years leading up to 2006. And then, a chaotic abyss swallows the club whole, chewing through 19 different managers in the following 19 seasons. It's like night and day.
And the collapse was brutally fast. Just 1 year after Curbishley left, they were relegated from the Premier League after cycling through 3 different managers in a single season. From there, it's a drift between the Championship and League One. They suffered through the highly unpopular Roland Duchâtelet ownership, an era pretty much defined by fan protests, a drop to the 3rd tier, and a business model the fans felt was fundamentally failing the club. But amazingly, they hadn't hit absolute rock bottom yet.
That arrived in Section 3, the 2020 boardroom disaster. The absolute peak of this dysfunction hit in January 2020 with the East Street Investments takeover. What kicked off with massive optimism descended into a public civil war within weeks. Picture this. Principal financier Tahu Nimmer actually takes to Instagram, of all places, to pull the plug. Late on a Monday night, he publicly posts that he's withdrawing his purchase, directly accusing executive chairman Matt Southall of using club money to fund his personal lifestyle. We're talking allegations of buying expensive club Range Rovers and splashing out on a central London apartment. Well, Southall wasn't taking that lying down. He instantly fires back with his own explosive public statement, calling the claims malicious falsehoods. He then claims Nimmer hadn't actually provided a single penny of the promised funds. It perfectly captures the farcical nature of the whole thing, right? You've got a boardroom fighting for control of a historic football club via social media posts and press releases. You really can't make this stuff up. So while the owners are bickering, the English Football League has to step in. Because these new owners utterly failed to prove where their funding was coming from, the EFL flat out refused to approve the takeover. The penalty? They slapped the club with a strict transfer embargo. So now Charlton is left deeply vulnerable, totally unable to sign permanent new players, all while trying to fight a relegation battle on the pitch. Okay, so how do you get out of that? Section 4, the GFP turnaround. How do you fix a club spiraling on a fast track toward League Two? You need serious, serious intervention.
And the financial reality they walked into was severe. £13.927 million. Global Football Partners, or GFP, inherited almost £14 million in losses from the year before they finally purchased the club in July 2023. They bought it fully knowing they were practically $15 million in the hole before they even touched a single piece of paper.
But listen, their commitment was real. GFP absorbed a brutal first year. They had to untangle this terrible web of player contracts where assets were just walking out the door for free. They even endured a 16th place finish in League One, which, by the way, was their lowest finish in almost a century. But then they made an absolute masterstroke appointment, manager Nathan Jones.
By aggressively backing him and rebuilding a sustainable model, they actually engineered a triumphant return to the championship for the 2026/27 season.
Which leads us to Section 5, the 5-year plan. Now that the club is back in the second tier, non-executive chairman Gavin Carter has detailed exactly how they plan to keep this hard-won momentum going.
Carter laid out a super clean, updated 5-year strategy. And the best part? He noted they actually had to completely reset their initial plan because they achieved Step 1, surviving League One and stabilizing the club, way ahead of schedule. So now Step 2 is all about building and remaining highly competitive in the championship. Step 3, expanding internationally and driving massive commercial growth.
And the immediate return of fan trust is just incredible to see. The numbers speak for themselves. Before the 2026-27 season even kicked off, season ticket revenue had already eclipsed the entire previous season's sales. The fans are back in the valley, and as Carter rightly pointed out, they simply cannot execute this master plan without the supporters.
To ensure they never, ever return to the chaos of 2020, GFP is seriously bolstering its boardroom and squad strategy. They brought Richard Law onto the board, a guy who really knows elite governance and international trading. They're expanding their global recruitment network, snapping up players like Colin Sishinje from Serbia. And Carter is the first to admit they have to be ruthless with squad management. To give Nathan Jones the fluid, aggressive players he needs to compete, they have to move existing players on to fund the new additions. It's just the reality of the business.
So here's what you should really take away from this explainer. As Charlton steps back into the championship ring against well-backed returning rivals like Cardiff and Bolton, we have to ask the ultimate question. It's an incredibly wealthy, fiercely competitive league. Can Charlton secure the outside investment they need to truly survive and thrive among this wealthy elite? Or is this pragmatic, sustainable new plan enough to keep the chaos permanently in the rearview mirror? Only time will tell for sure, but man, the foundations at the Valley are finally looking solid again.